Yeah, I'm doing great. Thank you, Madison. How are you?
Good. Good. Can't complain. It's been an easy day, which is nice.
Awesome. Well, I'm so excited to be able to talk to you for this film because watching it, I had a great time. And I guess to begin with, I'd love to know what it was that attracted you to the project. And a horror movie is, I think, gory as this one, is fair to say.
I mean, it's very gory. I've always loved the genre. I've always been a huge horror fan ever since I was younger. So I think anytime horror comes across my desk, I'm always a bit excited. For me, though, the biggest pull, was I've been the biggest Chuck Russell fan for as long as I can remember. Nightmare on Elm Street, Dream Warriors, The Blob. I just think, he's a legend. He's been doing this forever. I was very excited, but I remember my team sent it to me originally, and they're like, "I think you're gonna like this one because there's cats, lots of cats throughout the whole script." And so I've always wanted to work with a cat, so I was very excited. But it just kind of all came together, and I had a lot of great talks with Chuck in the beginning of kind of what he was thinking that about what he wanted to do, and yeah, it just kind of all fell into place from there.
Awesome. And I feel like I've got to bring up the bed scene because that's kind of
Mhm.
everyone's worst nightmare. And I thought the way it was put together, I'm guessing a lot of practical effects. It certainly looked that way.
Mhm.
So what was that day like on set for you to shoot
Oh my
that
gosh.
scene?
Yeah, I mean that was crazy. But that's what I love so much about Chuck. I feel like majority of the things that we did accomplish in the film, he's always been so good with all of his practicality. If he could do it in real life, that was what he wanted to do. And I remember reading that on the page for the first time. And of course, my thought was, how are we going to tackle this one? And I show up on the day, and they rigged basically our set was in this house that was on a platform, and they created this mattress that just basically, had holes at the bottom of the bed, and we had a bunch of stunt performers that would just shove their hands through, and we did like a bunch of rehearsals. It was like a whole timing thing of how to get it properly and like make sure it was safe. But and they kind of nailed it every time, but it was so funny because we did it, and I didn't get a chance to meet the stunt performers until after we were done. And I'd always be like, after they called cut, I'd be like, is everyone good? And they'd all like give me their thumbs up at the end. So it's pretty silly, but you have to laugh at that stuff. It turned out awesome. It's one of my favorite parts of the film, I think. I think visually it's just very effective, which, whenever you do anything practically, that's always the hope. And it just turned out very cool. But no, that all comes from the mind of Chuck Russell.
Oh, that's awesome. And I'm curious, how familiar were you with Witchboard? Obviously, there is another film and a little bit different to
Mhm.
this one. Did you find it necessary to go back and check that one out, or did you really approach this as like a fresh start for the series in some ways?
I took this completely fresh.
Yeah.
Also, early on in conversations, Chuck pretty much said that it's very different. They took the IP and sort of ran with it, and just kind of gave their own spin of it. But I always thought, because I still haven't watched the original, but I haven't wanted to watch it until we had been done promoting and doing everything. But I think like I'll do a double feature when like this one comes out, and then I'll go home and I'll watch the original Witchboard because it's due for a watch. I need to see it. But Chuck was like, we're doing something completely different. So I didn't tap into it.
Yeah, I think it'll be a cool double feature for fans as well, actually, because they complement each other nicely. And I want to
Do
be careful.
they? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
definitely.
good.
And I think this one brings a lot of fresh ideas. And I want to be careful with spoilers, but Emily is quite a complex character, and it's a little bit of a duality to her in a couple of different ways. So, how interesting was that to explore with a character like this one in this horror setting as well?
I mean, I think it was one of the things that drew me to the role was, everything she sort of experiences through from the beginning to the end. There's a lot to play, and the whole thing just got me very excited. I'm trying to see how much I can say without giving too much away. But she goes through a full spectrum of emotions, and you see her grounded, you see her light, you see her soft at the beginning, you see her get sort of dragged to the depths, and then you see her as a completely different person, no pun intended. So I had a lot to play with her. And so that was always something from the beginning that I was very excited to jump into.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, a lot of your scenes as well with Aaron and Jamie's characters. So, how is it to bounce off them and explore some of those dynamics as well? Because
I
again,
mean, th They're both so great. Aaron, he's such a sweetie. He does such a good job as Christian. And he does such a good job of really grounding the film, because we do. It's pretty crazy. We go there. So he plays such a good part of just like making sure we all kind of come back home. And he's just so talented. And Jamie, I mean Jamie, he could recite the dictionary and you would believe everything that that man says. I mean, he has most of our exposition as well, and he did such a good job with it. I remember Baptiste, who's basically, he's like this cult leader, super dark guy. And reading some of his dialogue on the page, I remember being like, this is before Jamie was cast at the time. And that was a tough role to pull off, because it's all of the exposition. He explains everything down from the beginning. And honestly, I don't know if anyone else could have done it better than Jamie. He does such a good job.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know obviously in terms of horror, you've done a couple of different types, obviously with Goosebumps, that kind of PG-13
Yes.
horror, and I know what you did last summer was kind of the slasher side of things. So
Mhm.
now you've
Mhm.
done this one. Are there any other areas of this kind of horror world you'd like to explore, do you think? Now you've had a taste of this world?
I mean, I think always. I think that's my favorite thing about the genre is there's always something new. There's always like a new story that comes along. There's so many IPs that are just being revisited and I mean, gosh, there's so much. But you're right, there's so many different genres of horror. I'm like, I think it'd be really fun to do like a comedy horror next. I feel like that's the one world I haven't dived into, and I think they complement each other so well. But I don't know. I've always had a love for it. I I think sometimes I drive my team crazy because I always react better to whenever I get a horror script sent my way. I just think they're fun,
Yeah.
it's high stakes, but at the same time, it's always a good time on set. Like everyone just wants to make the scariest, most uncomfortable thing possible.
Yeah, and I think as a genre, when you look at a film like Sinners, which obviously came out this year, was a huge hit, and you've got superheroes struggling. So that horror franchise always seems to have something to give, doesn't it, really?
I mean, the people just always go back. They always have, they always will. I don't know if it's a genre that will ever fully go away. And what's so interesting too, we've seen so many different versions of it where, you have like very much like Witchboard, which it's popcorn, it's fun, it's a ride from the beginning to the end. And then you have things like, all your A24 horrors where like you actually can't sleep for 3 weeks straight. So, it's like there's so many different avenues of it that you can dive into. So I don't know if it'll ever die. I think there's too many horror fans out there who would be very sad to see the horror genre. And also, I think it's one of the genres that actually brings people to the theater
Yes.
because it's way better to watch it, with the sound design and on the big screen, especially if you got jump scares. Like a jump scare in your house is fine, but it's always way better when it's on the big screen.
Yes, could not agree more with that. And I think something that makes this one stand out is, I know we mentioned it before, the practical effects, the makeup. So for you to get hands-on with that, I know a lot of actors hate the fake blood because it's a nightmare, but how much does that help your performance to really get that practical side of things throughout a film like this?
I mean, I love it. So like you brought up Goosebumps recently. I mean that whole movie we pretty much acted to tennis balls for majority of it, because so much of it was CGI, which, it comes with its own challenges. I would much rather get dirty and um do the blood or my favorite was, and I guess I can talk about it because it's in the teaser, but the sequence where I'm in the bathtub and I
Yeah.
get pulled down. Like they built that rig. We built a bathroom on top of I guess it was probably like a 15-foot tank. And so I was standing on like a wooden beam. And so basically our stunt performers, their hands would come up and like grab my legs. And then also when we did the drop, I'm holding on and then basically the beam would open from the bottom and I would be sucked down into the tank. So everything we did, most of what you're seeing, we actually pulled off in person. And I mean, that's what made me fall in love with filmmaking in the first place is taking the thing that's on the page that seems impossible and figuring out a way to do it. And so that's what me and Chuck, we would always laugh because he'd be like, "What do you think about this?" And I'd be like, "Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I'm game. Yeah, throw me on top of a bathtub on top of a 15-foot tank. I'll fall into it. It's fine."
And you mentioned Chuck there again, and obviously, as you said, he is a horror legend with some of the films he's done over the years. So, how valuable was it to you as an actor to have someone like him on hand and to guide you through a film like this and through those practical kind of effects, which I think a lot of films would probably just chuck a bit of CGI in there, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, 100%. And he was just, I mean, being a fan beforehand too, it was just fun to watch him in action and watch him work. And he's such a collaborator. Like he trusted me a lot and trusted, kind of what I had to bring to Emily. So together, I think we were able to really find Emily and figure out where we wanted her to go. And he was always pushing me too, which was nice. He never let me settle. It was always like, how much further can we take it? Where else can we go? And he had such a clear image of what he wanted this movie to be. But I mean, I was a little nervous at first too, because I grew up watching his movies. Like they're all so great, and he's a legend for a reason. He makes a good film. And so it was such a treat. And we just had so much fun.
Oh, well, I know I had so much fun watching this one. And just one last quick question for you, Madison. I love those Jumanji movies as well. I know it's been a while now since the last one. Do you think we're ever going to get that third one, finish out the trilogy, or?
My lips are sealed. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But there's been rumblings. There's been some rumblings. Okay.
Oh,
That's all
cool.
I can say. That's all I can say right now. But I
Oh,
love them too. I'm glad you love them. Yeah.
oh, that's an awesome tease. Well, Madison, thank you so much for taking the time. Like I said, this film, I think horror films are going to have a blast with it. And it must be exciting for you to get one out there in theaters with how well how the genre how great the genre is doing. So yeah, congrats.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. It was so nice to talk to you.
You too. Thanks so much for your time, Madison. Awesome to meet you.